please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Next item is approval of agenda. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Rogalski.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Feather. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Item A, approval of minutes from the regular meeting 6/27/2024, sorry. Item B, approval of minutes from the executive session 6/27/2024. Item C, the enrollment report from 7/3/2024. Item D, the residency truancy report from 7/1/2024. Item E, the school transportation report from 6/30/2024. Pleasure of the committee?
Sorry, you can go.
Yes, Ms. Smith?
On the regular meeting minutes, there was one section, I think it was number 10, where I did ask Melanie to update where Mr. Fiorello had stated that the school handbook was available and has been available on our public website. So she is adding that. She's on holiday, so she'll add that when she comes back. So I'd like to make a motion to amend to the consent agenda, to the approval of the regular meeting minutes.
Okay. So Ms. Smith makes a motion to amend the consent agenda to remove the approval of minutes from the regular meeting of 6/27/2024, to table it. till-
Yes, and then we can do it on the next meeting.
Okay, so Ms. Smith makes a motion. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Fiorello. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. So now we will go back to have a motion for the amended consent agenda. Pleasure of the committee.
Motion to approve as amended.
Motion by Mrs. Rogalski. Second by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. Next item on the...
Madam Chair,
Uh-oh,
just
Mr.
wanted to
Adams.
say how proud I am of you all for doing that so beautifully.
It only
took 4 years.
It only took 8 years for me. That's all right, just in time to leave. We really were in sync there. Next item on the agenda is personnel announcements. Mrs. Dresdick.
Good evening. We have two appointments tonight, both effective 8/29/2024. Benjamin Streeter, Spanish teacher at Cumberland High School, and Sarah Johnson, grade 8 science teacher at McCourt. Also coaching appointments as submitted. Thank you.
Next item is report out of executive session meeting on 7/11/2024. Report out of executive session votes. We did not take any votes tonight. The next item is vote to seal the minutes of the executive session.
Motion to seal.
Motion by Mrs. Rogalski. Second by Ms. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, superintendent's report, school construction update. Dr. Thornton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, I would say we had a kickoff meeting with our new architects for BF Norton AI3, and that was a great meeting. We had that this week, and we're going to start the visioning work for BF Norton this coming summer, so that's already underway. In terms of construction, let's take a look at Ashton. Things are really starting to move. This was a couple days ago. That's just prepping for the first course of tar in the back of the parking lot. And they're already putting tar down now as we speak. It's going down in sections today. A couple looks there. That was today. They're already putting it in. It'll be 2 courses in the end. Go ahead. More tar. So now this is them starting to take down the wall in the gym for that bump out stage at Ashton. As you know, it's a bump out. First they build the outside, and they knock the wall down once it's contained. So they have an open concept. That's the back of the bump out as it was being built last week, and that's the wall coming down. Here it is down a couple days later. That's open now. That's what the stage will be at Ashton. And over here, they're putting up the final white finish layer on the outside of the bump out. So that's all been happening really quickly. Here, they're putting the flooring down in the office suite. That's the principal's office. That's the conference room. That was earlier in the week. That's the nurse's office. That flooring's already in. The ceiling's already in. Go ahead. The hallway, they're flooding the ceilings or filling in the ceilings. It's happening as we speak. This is the more fancier kind of wood structure ceiling you see in parts of the buildings. That's already all in. Once again, this is one of the common areas. Since last time, the wiring has all been completed, and that's ready to go. Here we are painting the heating units. We're also going to be painting the shelving. That's happening this week. So all this yellow shelving here will get painted. We're not going to leave that color. Once again, ceiling's done, floor's done, walls done. Go ahead. Lockers went in today. Very exciting. Little lockers for little people. So they're tiny, tiny lockers. Those are starting. They're about this tall. And those are going in. Lots of wires, Mr. Chandler, to get run. So we still have wires to run in Ashton. And the whiteboards are in. Those came in. Those go in the classrooms. And once again, this is the completed now version a day later of the conference room. They did it in one day. They knocked that out. And aside from that, community, they started doing the roof. That's being stripped as we speak. That's underway. And we're also, last week we met with the fire marshal, the building officials to look at the preschool going over to a community for the first year and making sure we kind of do all the things they want us to do for that process. That's underway. So happy to answer any questions you have on construction.
Dr. Thorne, would a tour be available to committee members by appointment?
Yeah, let me know when you want to go.
All right,
Yeah.
fair enough. Thank you.
So my understanding is the reason we're starting after Labor Day is because of construction for the calendar. And what is the intention going forward?
Yeah, so past several years, we did ask the committee to consider starting after Labor Day because it gives us more time to open. As you know, every year we have a mad dash to open on time, and those extra days really help. Knowing that this is our last visitor to this location, next year in theory, next winter, when you see the calendar, I could present to you a calendar before Labor Day, for the first time in a while, which you could certainly vote on. Because next year, as you recall from AI3, their current model is BF would not have to come up here. They could stay there and watch the building being built at the BF ball field. So in theory, yes, we could give you a model next year, option A, call it, before Labor Day to have you look at.
And that will help with like February vacation, graduation, kind of push
Yep.
everything back to where it was previous.
Right, we know folks sometimes lament a late graduation. This would certainly help that cause, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay, silly question, but I was asked this by a constituent. The fencing at Ashton in front, is that like the white fencing? Is that, like, is there something that's going in there, or is that just like decorative?
That's water retention ponds with white fencing around it. That's what it looks like.
Very cute.
That's the design. You will see black fencing, I believe, around the perimeter of Ashton on the wood line going up to 295. It's going to be a permanent 6-foot-high black fence running the whole property all the way around. That's going to go in probably.
Excellent. Awesome, thank you.
Just two questions. I know coming in, I saw everything is getting packed up and it's in the wellness. And is that Ashton or in the gym right now? Is that Ashton or is that community?
That's community.
Okay, and do we have a target date in mind for when we're going to be transitioning out and in for this building?
Yeah, all those things really are predicated on just getting all the work done. So Megan Havrilla, our rep at Colliers, has a schedule, but it's flexible, but certainly it's mid-August. That's really our goal.
And how, I'm going to ask my question again, how is that top level? Have they started any more work on that?
Top level is great. If you want, at the end of the meeting, I'll take you up. It's basically the floors are in, the sheetrock is up. Next up are the window replacements, but it looks nice. I'll take you up if you want.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Thornton. Next on the agenda is reports of standing committees, starting with the Fiscal Management Subcommittee update. Mr. Collins?
My button. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Fiscal Management Subcommittee met this evening. We have 14 resolutions for the committee. We have payment of the bills. And Mr. DeJesus, our Facilities Director, updated us on the summer activity. Buildings are already being cleaned and grounds work is underway. So while some educators have the summer off, the grounds crew and maintenance staff is working around the clock to get ready for next year. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Next, Policy and Procedures Subcommittee update. Mr. Fiorello?
Policies and Procedures was not able to meet this week. I am hoping to have at least 2 in the month of August, and I'm going to maybe try to sneak one in before the end of July. So I'll have to talk to my co-committee.
Thank you, Mr. Fiorillo. Next is Achievement and Communications Subcommittee update. We also did not meet, and we need to get a date on the calendar. Next, District Health and Wellness Subcommittee update, not for the summer, right? Right. Okay, thank you. Next is public hearing. Item A, reading of amended policy, G6 policy, personnel benefit policy for non-unit administrative and support personnel. I think Mrs. Drezick, you will give us an. This is just the reading of it, so we won't discuss this now.
We'll be with you in a second.
Please hold. So that is that. Sorry, Mr. Fiorillo. Why don't I
I was just going to ask
Sorry
that
about that.
all 3 policies be read into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Fiorillo. If there anyone from the public who would like to comment on these specific policies, you can come up to the podium. Seeing none, we will move to our general comments from the public. If there's anyone from the public who would like to make any general comments, you can go up to the podium. Welcome, President Kinch.
Pleasure. I just wanted to update you on it. Well, first of all, I want to start with some of the good stuff. I want to congratulate you, Superintendent, on the graduation. Flawless ceremony. Really went right down to the minute, so I appreciate that. And I've been, with graduation and a couple of other meetings I had planning, there were a couple of things, so I haven't been here, but if I didn't say it earlier, I want to thank you again for your cooperation during the budget season. We got through that quite smoothly, so thanks for that. And the last thing I wanted you to know, the council last night voted on the charter amendments that are going to go forward. It's about 15 of them. You know, it's quite a bit in the presidential election, but they were all important. And I think for you folks, you know, as we work together, since I've been on the council, we did a really good job naming the replacement. So now it passed to go to the voters to allow you to name your own replacement inside a year, and outside it's going to go to the public for an election. So we'll have full transparency on that appointment. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Oh, come on up. I didn't have President Kinch state his name and address, but I'd ask you to state your name and address.
It's Jason Dean, 150 Staples Road, Cumberland, Rhode Island. I just want to remind the committee, I know everyone knows me here, almost everyone, that it's day 323 since I made my initial complaint about my son being mistreated. It's day 251 since my son was assaulted at the school. It's day 219 since my son's suspension was unanimously overturned by the committee. And it's day 182 since the investigation was authorized for my, into the complaint I made about my son. In the language in that meeting, everyone seemed pretty horrified when they watched the video. I got emails, and some of the language in the emails was the same, that they were horrified, incredibly sorry, cannot imagine all that happening to my child, in the place that they are supposed to be safe. I know it's election season. I don't want this to be forgotten. I know there's an ongoing investigation. I have been given no updates. In that meeting on December 5th, there was an admittance to 3 policy violations. Mr. Fiorillo, you told me that you took it very seriously. Nothing's been done. I've gotten no updates. I had been recontacted for some comments. I gave the comments. We're looking at 6 months right now for this investigation. After the meeting, I was told to stick with it, that it takes a while. Part of the problem with nothing getting done and nobody getting disciplined is because people give up. Well, we're a month away from a year from my first investigation, so I can definitely see why people would give up. This is symptomatic of a broken system. It should not take this long. let me remind you that in the 180 days since this investigation was authorized, nothing has changed. All of the same language that was used about, kids are supposed to feel safe in school, kids are not safe. Nothing has changed. So for 180 days, everything that everyone was horrified by is still happening. So that's all I wanted to say. I did do an OPPA request there were 70+ emails that went back and forth. I did an OPPA request for the emails that were not addressed to me, my wife, or my son. Some of the things that weren't in the OPPA request, there was no mention of any investigation after any of the complaints or reports that I did. Again, 70 emails. The expungement. Logan was unanimously expunged of his suspension, and it was reversed. This was 35 days after he was suspended. After 25 days, there was no suspension. He missed all of the playoffs, all the Super Bowl, of his senior season. He missed the first 2 weeks of his wrestling, his senior wrestling. And I did a request, and not a single person was informed about Logan's expungement. So what's the purpose of the expungement? The team wasn't informed, the teachers weren't informed, guidance counselors were not informed. Nobody knows. Only the 5 of us or the 6 of us that were in that meeting know that Logan was expunged from that suspension. So
I'm sorry, Mr. Dean, I have to cut you off. We're over to 3 minutes, but I would like to have Mr. Adams just explain one thing to you about. Okay.
Okay, next item on the agenda is old business. Item A, discussion and a vote to approve school start and end times for the 2024-2025 school year. Dr. Thornton.
Madam Chair, I have a copy of the schedule at your places. As you may recall from the last several meetings, we were hopeful that the state would amend the law regarding length of school day. They did that, and we then had to ask RIDE again to reconsider our initial schedule, and they did. As you saw from the letter last week, they approved our schedule. So this essentially, we'll post it tomorrow on the website. This is essentially what we ran with a couple of years ago with the early release Wednesday. The one change is we made it so it's apples to apples. You'll notice the high school now would end at 1:45 because they were actually 10 minutes over. So now everyone's doing 400 minutes on those particular days, but it's essentially what we ran before. And I know you often will ask, does the start times, are they impacted? They are not. You can see the start times are what they were. It's just really the early release Wednesday is back, and as I've said many times, my opinion is the early Wednesdays, meeting every week with teachers and administrators, that's kind of one of the big things we do that makes Cumberland do so well. So I'm happy to say it is approved by RIDE.
All right, so good job getting us to this point. So we do need to take a vote on this. So Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to approve. Do we have a second for discussion? Ms. Smith?
Dr. Thornton, I just had a question on this. So, I mean, it appears all the elementary school times moved back to where they were originally before we've done all these shuffles in the different schools. Is Durham prepared to be able to take on that difference of time because it's the same time for community, yet it's going to be a further distance for a lot of those buses?
Yeah, they're looking at that now. Also keep in mind, we have one bus in reserve. So should someone live on, say, Sumner Brown, Burnt Swamp, and we need the extra bus deployed, we have the ability to put that in. So we will deliver on the schedule.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Fiorello, a second by Ms. Smith. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. So now this will officially be on the school website.
Yes.
Great. Next item.
really quick, I know before Alphabest has come in to speak, if they could, possibly, if we could get them on the agenda to come in and talk about the arrangements for this coming year with community and with the other schools, and I know parents are starting to get anxious about wait lists and everything now that the times are set. Thank you.
I'll see if they can come August 8th, if that's okay.
All right, next item under new business, item A, discussion and/or vote to approve new policies, C2 school improvement teams and F5 pesticide management. Mr. Fiorello?
Yes, this is the second reading and the final vote for these two policies as new policies. These policies have not changed, obviously, since the last time we discussed them. I would make a motion, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them on either of the two policies. Otherwise, I will make a motion to approve C2, school improvement teams, and if there's no objection, I'll take them both at the same time, and F5, the pesticide management policy. So I make a motion to approve both of those.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to approve policies C2 and F5. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Collins. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, item B, discussion and/or vote regarding parties' proposals on CTA collective bargaining negotiations.
Mr. Chair, I believe we are going to ask to table that for one meeting.
Okay, so that will be tabled. Same with item C, discussion and/or vote regarding parties' proposals on ICSI collective bargaining negotiations.
Yes, please.
And next item on the agenda, item D, discussion and/or vote on G6 policy, personnel benefit policy for non-unit administrative and support personnel. Mrs. Dresnick.
Good evening. I just was asked to highlight some of the changes to the policy. For all 12-month employees, the addition of 2 additional sick days, so they would go from 10 to 12 sick days, equaling 1 sick day a month per work. We've added the Pump for Mothers Act to the G6 policy, which guarantees pumping sessions for pumping moms. We've also added 4 weeks of parental leave for new parents, 2 weeks of vacation for new G6 employees. We have added a new position as a senior accountant. That was an ICSI position. It will now effectively be a G6 position. We have changed the title of the facilities manager to director of facilities. And we have added a new position, director of culture and student services.
Madam Chair, I would just add, many of the first items Mr. Dresnick mentioned are really linked to contractual changes that we're looking to make in the union contracts.
Thank you, Mrs. Dresnick.
Madam Chair, also, I would just mention, also in the policy, as you know, there are ranges for the G6 employees. So also in the policy are recommended shifts and ranges to correspond with the raises from the unions.
Pleasure of the committee. Mr. Fiorello.
Yes, I do need to make an amendment to the salary range. So I would make a motion to amend the principal of the middle school, the first line of the principal of the middle school. The proposed range currently is $110,000 to $127,000. That is actually a slight misprint because the proposed salary is actually higher. So I would propose to amend the proposed range from, so the new proposed range would be $110,000 to $127,179. That was much more difficult than it should have been. So I would just make a motion to make that change.
So Mr. Fiorello is making a motion to amend G6 policy to shift the principal of the middle school salary range from $110,000 to $127,179. Do we have a second for that amendment? Second by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. So now that we have amended the policy, now we can move on to the next step, Mr. Fiorello.
I just want to say that some of these, doing G6 salaries are very difficult. They've been difficult for many years because we have a tendency of underpaying our people. And this seems to be the year that we're correcting a lot of that between the two unions and also our G6 employees. So these salary ranges are finally going to be extremely competitive with other towns. So I would just make a motion to approve the new G6 policy.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second by Mrs. Rogalski. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Fiorello. Next is discussion and a vote to approve resolutions. Mr. Collins.
That's right. I'm also wearing reading glasses now. So we have 14 resolutions, SCPI-07-2024-105 through 118. The 14 resolutions passed Fiscal Management Subcommittee 3-0 and I move passage to the full committee.
Mr. Collins makes a motion to approve resolutions SCPR 07-2024-105 through 118. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fiorello. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Fiorello, and back to you again.
It was actually Mr. Collins.
Mr. Collins,
Thank you.
I know.
We look alike, guys.
Discussion and or vote to approve. You're not that funny. Discussion and or vote to approve payment of bills. Mr. Collins.
Yes, we have payment of the bills in the amount of $1,645,108.23. Payment of the bills passed Fiscal Management Subcommittee 3-0 and I'd move passage to the full committee.
Mr. Collins makes a motion to approve payment of bills. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Smith. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, school committee comments, school liaison reports. Any comments from the school committee? I personally just want to thank the people who have taken papers out and have collected their signatures to put themselves on the ballot to run for school committee. It is always good, the more engagement and involvement we have from the town, so I'm excited to see that. Next is vote to go into executive session discussion. Executive session, Dr. Thornton?
We do not.
None of that, so I need a motion to adjourn by Mrs. Rogalski. Second by Mrs. Vogel. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 7-0. We're adjourned at 7:33.